There are rules you're taught, and then there are rules you absorb, unspoken, brutal, real. Machiavelli didn't need to say them. He embodied them. Real power doesn't raise its voice, it lowers the temperature of the room. It doesn't reveal strength through volume, but through restraint so sharp it unsettles. The moment you speak to prove something, you've already lost the frame. Most people think power is about presence. Machiavelli knew power is about the absence of need, especially in public. Because in public, you're not just being watched, you're being calculated, you're being catalogued. Your posture becomes prophecy. Never complain, never explain. These aren't cliches, they're survival codes. When you complain, you leak something fatal, dependence. When you explain, you surrender the mystery. And in Machiavellian terms, mystery is currency. So what do you do instead? You build silence like armor. You let discomfort echo. You let people guess how deep the silence goes, because that's the game. Not to speak loud enough to be heard, but to be quiet enough they lean in. You don't lead by showing them everything. You lead by leaving just enough unseen that they follow the silhouette of your presence, not your shadow. Machiavelli understood that dominance isn't created through performance. It's created through withdrawal, the absence that whispers louder than noise, the silence that rewrites the room's hierarchy. Most people try to be liked. They walk in smiling, nodding, filling gaps with pleasantries. But that need to be accepted is a confession, a signal that you require something from them. And in needing them, you give them power. Instead, you arrive like a question, not an answer. Stand slightly apart, speak less, but when you do, anchor your words in stillness, not hesitation, stillness. There's a difference. One suggests fear, the other suggests control. Machiavelli's real lesson was this: control is invisible, because when your silence disturbs them more than your voice ever could, you've won without raising your hand. Why does this matter? Because humans are pattern-seeking. When you behave unpredictably, not erratically, but precisely, people search for meaning. And what they can't interpret, they elevate. That's your leverage. Let them overthink you. Someone speaks over you in public? You don't react. You look. One glance, timed perfectly. No defense, just a pause. Let them stumble into their own overcompensation. You've said nothing, but the power shifts. Someone asks you a direct question, one meant to corner you. Don't answer. Ask them why they want to know. Their intent is now under review. You've reversed the power dynamic with 8 words. Machiavelli didn't weaponize speech. He weaponized reaction, or the lack of it. In his world, restraint wasn't passivity. It was domination, wrapped in ambiguity. The world chases the loudest person in the room for a moment, but it remembers the one they never figured out. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be where your absence creates a louder echo than your presence.
Control isn't what you say, it's what you don't flinch out. Machiavelli saw pressure not as a test of strength, but of narrative. Because in moments of stress, most people surrender their myth. They leak. A voice that trembles. A jaw that tightens. A stance that folds inward. These are micro-confessions, and the world reads them instantly. He understood this. You don't lose power when you're attacked. You lose power the moment your composure breaks under it. So what do you do when provoked? Nothing, but not passively. You do it with intention, the deep breath before response, the pause that breaks their tempo, the way your silence doesn't shrink, it expands. That's what unnerves them, the absence of chaos, because people expect reaction, emotion, explanation, defense. And when none comes, they unravel inside their own assumptions. The powerful don't win because they never face chaos. They win because they never show they're feeling it. Even when boiling underneath, their exterior is absolute, controlled, immaculate. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said a ruler must appear all virtue, even when inside he is not. Not because of deceit, but because perception precedes reality. And once people see you as composed, they start treating you like you are composed. They adjust themselves around your stillness. So next time you're challenged, in public, in private, in passing, don't meet the energy. Break it. Respond with posture, not words. Let the silence force them to escalate. Let their panic fill the space you left. And when they're done, you speak softly, one line, deliberate, flat-toned, unswerving. Because now you're not reacting, you're controlling the frame. Machiavelli didn't need to dominate you loudly. He would watch you unravel yourself, one misplaced emotion at a time. That's how power really moves. Not in resistance, in refusal. You become the psychological landmark in the room, the one they can't shift, can't crack, can't read. And that's presence they follow without knowing why.
Power is not in the statement, it's in the restraint. Machiavelli believed that once you explain yourself, you've already lost something, because in every explanation lives a need, the need to be understood, accepted, justified. And the moment they sense that need, you're no longer shaping perception, you're chasing it. He saw this mistake often. A ruler makes a decision. The crowd reacts. The ruler panics, scrambles to clarify. But now the ruler is no longer the author of his myth. He's editing his existence according to their discomfort. Instead, Machiavelli would shift the pressure. If questioned, he'd answer with ambiguity, not clarity. Perhaps you misunderstood me, or perhaps you understood me perfectly. Each phrase a trap, each word a mirror. Because the moment you explain, the frame is theirs. But when you respond with calm deflection, the tension stays with them. They begin to question their own reaction. They start wondering, was I wrong? Did I miss something? This is how power protects itself, not with volume, but with suggestion. You don't fill silence, you weaponize it. Next time you say something bold and the world leans in with judgment, don't clarify, don't defend, just observe. Let your stillness stretch long enough for their assumptions to turn inward.
And if they press again, smile slightly. Say, "Let's see how it plays out." Now, you're not explaining, you're predicting. And suddenly, the weight shifts back to them. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't just in what he revealed, it was in how much he left open, how he used implication instead of certainty, and how he let people define themselves by how they reacted to his silence. So if you want control, don't overstate. Don't rush to be understood. Say less than they expect. And when their minds scramble to fill in the gaps, you've already won. The greatest form of dominance isn't what they hear from you, it's what they replay in your absence.
If people can predict you, they can control you. Machiavelli knew that dominance wasn't built on constant motion, but on deliberate stillness, on absence that speaks louder than presence. Because when you're always available, always speaking, always showing, you make yourself measurable. And what is measurable can be managed. But the moment you step back, just slightly, a vacuum opens. And nature, especially human nature, hates a vacuum. Think of the person who always shows up, always shares, always laughs the loudest. Over time, the crowd stops noticing. Familiarity breeds not just comfort, it breeds dismissal. But the one who enters quietly, says little, and disappears early, they become a question that lingers. Machiavelli wouldn't stay in the spotlight. He'd leave right before the applause. Not in haste, in precision. He'd vanish with timing so sharp it left the room tilted, unfinished. And in that unfinished silence, the myth grows. Where did he go? What's he planning? Did we say something wrong? Now you're not just present in their memory, you're haunting it. So the next time you're in a room, don't aim to dominate it. Aim to disturb it, just enough to leave a trace. Say one line they replay later. Offer a glance that stays longer than expected. Then exit. No explanation, no announcement, just absence paired with mystery. Because when people don't know what you want, they can't manipulate you. When they don't know where you're headed, they can't block you. And when they don't know what you think of them, they try harder to earn your favor. Machiavelli's silence wasn't passive, it was performance, a quiet choreography of unpredictability, a refusal to give others the clarity they crave, and by doing so, becoming unforgettable. Remember this, the loudest presence fades fastest, but the quiet, deliberate exit, that echoes. Everyone talks about power, but no one tells you this. You lose it the second you flinch. Machiavelli understood that the game isn't played in moments of triumph. It's played in tension. And in public, pressure isn't the exception, it's the test. The room watches not to see what you say, but to see what breaks you. Most people failed this test not with explosions, but with leaks. Their smile flickers, their voice sharpens, their shoulders collapse half an inch, and even if they recover, the myth has cracked. That moment, Machiavelli would say, is the difference between commanding a room or being consumed by it. Because power, real power, is atmospheric. It isn't loud, it isn't fast, it's still. And that stillness, when held under fire, becomes terrifying. Why isn't he reacting? Does he know something I don't? What is he planning next? This is psychological warfare without words. You don't respond, you absorb. Not like a wall, but like a black hole, swallowing pressure until the other person loses their footing. When someone insults you publicly, you don't react. You lean back, not with arrogance, but with controlled detachment, as if what they said wasn't even worth processing. That silence, that unbroken gaze, becomes a weapon, not of offense, but of narrative, because the crowd will remember one thing: you didn't move. That's how you shift from being a person to becoming an anchor in the room, the gravitational center everyone orbits around. Machiavelli never fought pressure. He rewrote the terms of the battle. He made others escalate, overexplain, break their own frames, while he stood exactly as he was, unreadable, unmoved, and unforgettable. So the next time you're challenged, don't explain, don't defend, don't correct. Just remain still. Let your stillness become suspense. Let the tension rise, and let them burn themselves in your silence.
Here's what Machiavelli knew that most people never learn. The more you talk, the more power you give away. In public, every word you speak gives the world something to interpret, categorize, or tear apart. And that's exactly what Machiavelli avoided. Because to control perception, you must first control your exposure. And exposure starts with speech. The insecure overexplain. The uncertain justify. The afraid soften every edge with disclaimers. But the powerful, they don't rush to be understood. They make themselves unforgettable by being unresolved. A subtle smile, a short nod, a single line dropped like a trap. Perhaps you understood me perfectly. Now the power shifts. Instead of defending your meaning, you force others to question their reaction. You don't offer the full picture, you offer fragments, and the human brain, desperate for closure, fills in the blanks with projections. Projections, Machiavelli knew, are stronger than the truth. Because when people project onto you, they create a version of you that often exceeds anything you could have said. And if they admire you, their projection turns you into a legend. If they fear you, you become something darker, a presence they can't decode. That's how authority is built, not through information, but through ambiguity. In the modern world, we're taught to clarify everything. But Machiavellian strategy thrives in the opposite: mystery. Say less, pause longer, make others ask twice just to get half an answer. Because when people have to work to understand you, they begin assigning value. And when they assign value, they start protecting their version of you. Now, you're no longer just a speaker. You're a signal. You're an enigma. And that enigma doesn't need to be explained. It needs to be felt. Most people chase the spotlight, thinking power is built by being seen. But Machiavelli knew something different. The most dangerous man in the room is the one who disappears before you understand him. Controlled absence, not distance, not avoidance, but tactical silence, creates psychological discomfort. Because in human behavior, attention follows contrast, and absence is the deepest contrast of all. When you withdraw without warning, without bitterness, without explanation, you interrupt the social rhythm. And that interruption, it echoes. You didn't argue, you didn't retaliate, you didn't beg to stay. You vanished with elegance, and now their mind replays it on loop. Why did he leave right then? Did we do something wrong? Was that the last moment we had access to him? This is the kind of mystery Machiavelli sculpted, not just reputation, but haunting. Because presence can impress, but absence disturbs. When others need to be seen to matter, your absence becomes scarcity, and scarcity breeds obsession. Here's the mistake weak people make. When they're ignored, they perform harder. They shout louder. They try to reclaim space they never truly owned. But the Machiavellian doesn't fight for space. He creates a vacuum and lets the world collapse into it. In a group setting, when you're subtly dismissed, do nothing. No cold stare, no clever comeback, just pull your energy back. Begin speaking less. Direct your focus elsewhere. And watch. The one who disrespected you will start performing, louder, sharper, more desperate. Because they feel what they can't explain. Your silence makes them disappear. This is the psychological trick. People only feel power when they sense it can be taken away. So when you remove yourself with grace, with poise, not out of emotion, but out of strategy, you create a new version of yourself in their mind. Not someone who is excluded, but someone above inclusion. Now, when you return, if you return, your presence carries more gravity than it ever did before. Because silence, used wisely, doesn't make people forget you. It makes them fear forgetting you.
What do people fear most in social situations? It's not confrontation, not even rejection. It's the loss of control over how they're perceived. And that's why silence, true unreactive stillness, is a weapon Machiavelli would wield like a blade hidden beneath velvet. When people push you with criticism, provocation, sarcasm, challenges, they're not just testing you, they're searching for your emotional outline. They want to know what ruffles you, what pulls you out of position. And most fail that test the same way. They explain, they justify, they try to win the moment. But the moment you do that, you give the crowd something more dangerous than your words. You give them predictability. They know how to bait you now, how to own you. Machiavelli would never offer that. Instead, he'd give them confusion wrapped in composure. He'd hold eye contact, not with aggression, but with calculated slowness. He'd pause before speaking, not because he was uncertain, but to make them uncertain. In a world that rushes to fill silence, the one who pauses becomes magnetic. It's not just stillness, it's refusal. Refusal to dance to their rhythm, refusal to be defined. And that refusal breaks their sense of control, because now they're overthinking. Why isn't he responding? Did I overstep? Does he know something I don't? The psychological reversal has begun. They were pushing for dominance. Now they're performing for your reaction. And the longer you withhold it, the more they unravel. This is what Machiavelli understood about power. It's not just what you say or do, it's what you refuse to reveal. The audience doesn't remember who had the best comeback. They remember the one who didn't need one. So when you're under pressure, accused,
doubted, undermined. Don't try to win the exchange. Break the tempo instead. Interrupt their expectations by leaning back, saying less, doing nothing deliberately. Because when nothing about you breaks, not your posture, not your tone, not your gaze, people stop looking for answers. They start looking at themselves. And that, Machiavelli would say, is when power is no longer something you wield, it's something you become.
Presence is an illusion, but the right kind of illusion can dominate a room long after you've exited it. Machiavelli knew the most powerful influence wasn't what you said when you were present. It was the feeling you left behind. That echo, that disruption, that moment when people question themselves after you've gone silent. This is where most people lose control. They believe the exit is the end, but the Machiavellian sees the exit as a beginning. Because what lingers after you leave is more dangerous than what you say while you're there. Power doesn't flare. It haunts. You walk away mid-conversation, not out of rudeness, but precision. Leave the sentence unfinished. Let them finish it in their mind. That's where the legend installs. When they ask, "Where did he go?" let the question hang. The truth? You didn't leave. You expanded. You see, every public interaction is a performance. But what matters is not the applause, it's the silence that follows. Does it echo with mystery, or does it dissolve into irrelevance? If they forget you, you failed. But if they whisper about you, if your name makes people pause mid-sentence, you've become untouchable. Machiavelli never wanted clarity. He wanted misinterpretation, because misinterpretation makes you impossible to pin down. And what can't be pinned down can't be destroyed. So now, as you master these last movements, your silence, your eye contact, your posture, your timing, remember this: power isn't gained by demanding attention. It's earned when people feel your absence more than they ever noticed your presence. You don't need to dominate a room. You need to disturb its certainty. Because once people become uncertain of who you are, they start building myths to explain it, and the myth always outruns the man. Machiavelli never became legend by shouting. He became legend by making people wonder what he was truly capable of. So when they speak of you, let them argue, let them guess, let them fear you, let them adore you, but never let them define you. That's the final lesson. Say less, mean more. Disappear deliberately.